Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff I've Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio.
And welcome to, well, you know what? For this Monday Mini, I'm going to call it Mental Health Monday. Can we say that?
Yeah, I like it.
Can we say it? Okay, I'm going to say it that way. So just to be real transparent with you, Anney, and then you, the listener, I'm going to tell you, my mental health is not great. So this is why we're going to call it Mental Health Monday. I'm not doing well. And it may be that whole millennial non-crisis thing we talked about because everything is a disaster and chaotic and things seemingly are getting worse, especially when it comes to society. It just feels like it's all burning and or drowning. Or something along those lines. And then, of course, there's also my own personal push and pull with my life in general. And I guess it could absolutely have. I know I've talked about my issues with my family, whom I love dearly, and I still see and contact, and they are there for me. So when I say there, I mean physically here for me. I know if I said I need help, they would be there in an instant. I know if I said I was sick, my family would be asking about me, making sure I was okay and taken care of, all those things. However, we are very disconnected in a lot of ways. Like they've never seen my house that I've bought, while my partner's entire family has visited for a little while. Of course, they're from out of town, which you would think would make it more difficult. But I digress. Except for my nieces, they have seen my house. It's pretty much because they drove to my house so I could take them out to eat. Again, though they are probably people that I'm the most close with in my family. So that's an interesting kind of like, it still stings a little bit. We made our book announcement, and Anney, I was talking to you off mic. I don't know. I should be to the point where we are so excited because we accomplished something huge. And we had the privilege of doing a big project. I had you by my side, and it's been a beautiful working progress, I think. I don't know. That's maybe my opinion, because I feel like we balanced each other out. You had so much patience with the fact that I'm the procrastinator of the two of us, as well as our wonderful person, Janie, who was, I guess she's labeled our ghostwriter, but I really hesitate to say that since we did write the book. But she has been 120% with us the entire process, taking us down this road. She is a beautiful person. I hope she remains in our lives forever because she was fantastic. The work of Helen Choi is so beautiful. I'm so excited. That part was probably my favorite part, is working with her to realize what our ideas were. I love doing that. So this whole thing should be exciting. I should be announcing to people. But every time I think about it, there's just like dread that happens. We just got a copy of the first draft of it. Is that what we call this?
The advanced reading copy. It's sort of like the first. It's not for sale. It's not the final copy. Because a lot of people sent me, I posted about it. A lot of people were like, wait, it doesn't come out till August. I'm like, yeah. Because it's still got a lot of editing to do. There's going to be color involved, I promise.
Yes. Yeah, there's black and white and like the thick brown odd drawing paper. It's like, obviously this is not, all the back was like, hey, this is not correct. But it's still excited to see, exciting to hold it, as well as seeing it bound together. It's like, wow, this is our work, our little avatars, which I'm very excited about. Seeing those is come to life. You know, we should be excited. But instead, I kind of just have this like little level of dread with it. It hit me today because I'm very emotional about it today as I am going through and trying to post about it. I haven't posted anything about it personally. I may have retweeted your thing one time, like the things that's happening on our social media of Stuff Mom Never Told You, social media. But I was really hesitant and I thought I wasn't going to do it, realizing a lot of the friends who I am close to don't know that I did this, that we've done this, even though they heard me talk about it in the process. So I just kind of went through and fixed, I guess, some of my social media, and I privated it. For those of you who are not following or interested in following me, you know, I'll do the accepted for sure, but I put it on private because of the fear and dread of what my family is going to say and react. And this is not everyone. Again, the reason I say this they are very much on the opposite spectrum of us, of what we believe, what we think is basic human rights, what we believe is, the overall reason for us to be here, to protect the people, the vulnerable communities. And I'm not saying that they hate them, but the belief is it's so old school rhetoric that it's definitely very conservative in the idea that if it's not pertaining to the heteronormative idea, then it's sin. So because of that, we have had a lot of clashing of heads. I've cried a lot. I felt very disconnected. As an adoptee, I've had a lot of conversations about racism, and they just see me. They don't see me, but it comes off as about I'm ungrateful for my upbringing. So all of this to say is like, that level has put such a cloud over me that I'm really struggling. And then also, because of all of this loss of identity of my family, I'm trying to submerge myself into the whole like Korean world. And I am struggling because of my own personal trauma and triggers from that the mental block has me so frustrated because it's made it clear that it's not time for me to progress. I spoke Korean until I was 8 years old, if not later, because obviously that's what I grew up with. I learned English within a 6-month span, very quickly trying to acclimate into a community of just white Americans speaking English, country English, as you can tell. So my accent, the way I speak is very odd, very odd. I get it. But like trying to kind of rediscover or come back to that has been so hard. I tell the funny joke of like being in a Korean college course for at least a full year and doing second to the worst in that course. And the worst person, and I love her to death, she was a white girl from Louisiana. So it's like the two of us were struggling real hard into the fact that when I told my history to my Korean teacher, she was very confused, because she expected me to say that I was born and then adopted immediately after birth. And then when I told her, no, I lived there till like a certain age, she was like, oh. And that was literal silence, and that was it. So a lot of these things have been really, really pushing my buttons, I'll say that way. You know, and then just add to the general of it all, I am a depressive individual. I've talked to you, depressive and anxious, so I'm definitely on that spectrum with a lot of trauma, once again. And it's just something I will always have to manage. You know, we've talked about that. We've talked about the fact that it just doesn't go away. I'm going to need different types of therapy for the rest of my life. I am on certain types of medication to try to balance everything out for me. And just maybe with a combo of all those things, I will say, yeah, I'm just not in a good place. Let me just be really frank and really honest. So, in honor of that, because I am not in a good place, because I had a whole different episode in mind, which had everything to do with anti-Asian stuff that I've seen recently, which makes me angry. But instead, what I wanted to go through is kind of try to make myself uplift my own mental health stuff, I guess, as well as share it with y'all. And no, I don't mean like binge watching your favorite or my favorite K-drama, which I have been doing, or rewatching Ratatouille for the upteenth time, which is my go-to movie. I don't know why. I just love it. I just love everything about it. But actually doing something that feels like I'm taking action. And that is something that I've always, when I feel upset, when I see something that is offensive or obviously a real attack on the community that I love, then I feel like, yeah, this is my best way of reacting. With that 10-minute rant about how I am not okay and me kind of going on, and even though, yes, sometimes you just need to have a moment and to collect yourself, and sometimes it just needs to be about you. Like, I don't want to hear anyone saying that that's being selfish. No, that's not a bad thing. Taking time just to reflect why you're hurting, that's beautiful. I mean, it's painful. But to be able to acknowledge yourself that way, you've got to. But for now, we're going to go forward with ways of taking action for all the nastiness that is happening or feels like it's constantly happening in our current state. Are you okay with that, Anney?
Yeah.
All right. So here's what I thought. I'm going to talk about a few organizations, and I know y'all are going to have so many more suggestions. So I really hope that you send us as many suggestions as you can. Send me what you do when you're in these places. Do you know what I'm talking about? I know you do because we've heard from you about the loss of family or feeling disconnected. And you all, including you, Anney, obviously, are a part of my chosen family. And I'm very grateful for that because I know not everyone has that. So moving on. So one of the, of course, things that we need to talk about is the anti-trans laws as well as rhetoric that is happening everywhere, all over the country. And it feels like it's nonstop. As much as so much progress has been made for the trans community, there's a lot of step backs. We've talked about that. So here's a few organizations that maybe you should look to if you want to help, including the National Center for Transgender Equality, which works on a local level as well as the federal level on policies and laws, which is very important right now, obviously. Trans Lifeline, which is a hotline staffed by trans people for trans people. And I think this is really important because we know how isolating and how much self-loathing there is when it comes to what we're hearing with anti-trans rhetoric, that they are really pushing that hateful language. And sometimes eventually that gets into your ears, and having a community is so important. Then we have Trans Women of Color Collective. This obviously focuses on trans women of color, which we need to talk about the marginalized when it comes to intersectionality, how many levels of trauma and triggers there is within that. And then we have the Trans Youth Equality Foundation, which provides education, advocacy, and support for transgender and gender nonconforming teens and youth. I believe they have a camp coming up, too. I think I just saw that on their site, which sounded interesting. So that's just a few. I know there's tons out there. I know y'all know there's some on the local level, which you definitely should be looking into. And then we're going to go on to, we've talked about previously, the reproductive rights, justice and care, because it is ongoing and irritating. And that includes the National Network of Abortion Funds. I've talked about them before, which helps with financial and logistical needs for those in need of abortion. They also work with local organizations, which is so important. I think we've talked about how important it is that you do look towards that way. Then we have Sister Song, which is one of my favorites. They work to amplify and strengthen the Indigenous community and the people of color. So they work really closely with them. And then we have the Bridget Alliance, which also do similar work for providing transport and any kind of logistical needs and funding. Then we have one specifically for the South, so that includes like Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, which is ARC Southeast. They do the same thing about the funding and the logistics. And then we have Frontera Fund, which is specifically with the Rio Grande Valley in Texas. And I did focus a little on the South side, so everybody from the North, let me know what you got, because I know y'all, in the Midwest, all of the places. I'm not ignoring you, I promise. And then we talked about banned books previously, and I'm getting some good information from listeners about laws that's happening around there that we do want to come back to. But here's some ways to help work against the banned books that's happening, which is stay informed. And that you can do that with organizations like We Need Diverse Books. Their site is diversebooks.org. And they do exactly that, and helping to get out different voices and different books for those to see themselves in literature, which is so important because I know how underrepresented I felt. Then there's PEN America, like writing pen, and it's pen.org, which, quote, champion the freedom to write, recognize the power of the word to transform the world. So they do a lot of conversations, and they'll let you know and update you what's going on around the country, because this is really important. We need to really pay attention. I know, Anney, you were talking about the fact that a lot of the beginning of some really ugly stuff happened with banning of books.
Yeah. And when we did our book announcement in our book club and we talked about banning of books, PEN America was the one we used a lot of their recent data on. So they are a big name, and they are keeping watch on this, and they have a lot of really good data and resources for if you want to know more about how to fight back.
Yes, and also you can start banned book clubs. I guess technically all of our books have been banned
I used to, like I said, banned books week. It's in September. And like I said, my high school, a couple of us would run it, and we would make bookmarks that had banned books and the quotes from the banned books on them and hand them out. Like, I think this would be super fun. And yes, you could use like some of the books we've done on our book clubs. And I don't know, there's something there's a lot of really fun DIY projects you can do around an idea like that.
Yes, for sure. And then very important, buy and read banned books. And when we say buy and read, try to keep it local. Go to your independent bookstores. We know there's tons out there. I don't do it enough. I try as much as we can. Sometimes we have to do it on the fly. I will say, I know authors have said, even if you do use massive conglomerates like Amazon, they still get money. They'd rather you do that than not.
Right.
So if you have to, you have to. Sometimes there's not access, but if you can, go to your independent bookstore. We have Karis, which is an amazing independent bookstore here in Atlanta. But yeah, this is really important. Keep it. And you know what? Sometimes being banned is good advertisement. I think just as a thing. So let's make that a true thing. And then there's a lot of things happening with the youth who are already fighting against the bans in their schools. So if you know what's going on, if you know of student organizations that are doing this, which I'm sure there's tons out there, support them. Support them however you can, whether it's writing letters for them in support of them to the schools or letting the officials know, donating books to them. I think these are really great ideas. So that's some of the things that we can do for the banning of the books, which is silly. Also want to talk about how we can support the Black folks in general. There are organizations that we should follow, including Black Girls Code, which we've talked about before because they are empowering girls ages 7 through 17 by exposing them to computer science and technology. We love what they do. Also, we've talked about this before. Buy from Black businesses, Black women businesses. There are tons out there. TikTok is really great at exposing these little shops. We bought some T-shirts from Mahogany Mama. She does some amazing work. There's a lot of small shops that need our support. Do it. Do it today. Find it on Etsy. Be careful.
Do your research.
Be diligent because some people will just say things.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Okra Project, which we talked about previously on our Feminists Around the World, which they provide meals and resources to Black trans people. I think that's amazing. As well as the Black Women's Health Imperative, which is the only national organization dedicated to improving the health and wellness of Black women and girls. That is solely dedicated. So I think that's very important. Go check them out. And then there's so much more we could say because there's so many other things that we need to talk about. But to end, because I've already stretched this out with me just talking and rambling. First, Anney, do you have any things that you want to add that I may have missed? I know feminist frequency.
Feminist frequency. I mean, that's if you want to learn more about feminist issues from some people who got really attacked by angry gamers. They got great content. And there's also, Bridget talked about them once, and there are some Black women who are doing the same thing. And I feel like there's so much, I would say do your research in your local area because there is a lot going on right now. And it is important to know where your money is going. And there are some great tips for like the best, how you can, whatever your situation is, how you can support things like this in the best way, most efficiently. So do that. Yeah,
volunteering is always good. Again, when we talked with Elika, we talked about just the power of liking and sharing posts. Yeah. And if that's all you can do, especially for causes like the Iranian revolutions that's happening, making sure that you're just letting people know what's going on, talking about it. Same thing with the banning of the books. Same thing about these laws that they're doing under hush-hush conditions. Just making sure that you're outspoken about it is just as important. As well as just subscribing, following these organizations that we talked about to know what's going on and making sure that it's part of your community. And if you're on TikTok, for now, I guess, it's on your FYP. for your page, Anney.
Thank you.
I want to end with some of the things that we should do, especially when we are struggling with the trauma. PTSD, we've talked about how about 7 out of 8 of every 100 people suffer from PTSD. We talked about collective trauma, which is a constant for all of us. So just a few things, reminder that we can do, again, is take some time, focus on yourself. That's not a bad thing. And whether that's, again, taking a moment to do something that you love, taking a moment to be with someone that you love, taking a moment to take some space in the sun. Sun is good. Sun is good. Bugs are bad, but sun is good. And then also, if you can, yes, therapists are great. Find someone that you trust and able to really have a conversation with. Focus on the good. I know that's hard to do sometimes. And yeah, be with your chosen people. Maybe not drink so much. And yeah, sleep if you can. Sleep is good. Sleep is real good.
Yeah.
Also meditation. Also, Anney, I just found an app, and I didn't subscribe to it. I just wanted to check it out, where it talks about your well-being. And in this well-being, in the app, there is a baby bird that you have to take care of, and it checks on you. And it checks on how you feel and helps you do breathing exercises. It's interesting.
I'd be scared the baby bird would die. See, I think this says something about I've always been that way, though.
You don't have to feed it. You don't have to feed it. They are autonomous in that, but you can dress it and talk to it. And it gives you encouragement, and you see it growing up, I think.
Oh, no.
It has a community and family.
The bird has its own family?
I think so. I didn't get far enough.
Oh, my. Oh, my. That is interesting. I mean, it sounds like, again, I think that's more my statement on my mental health. My immediate reaction is, oh, no. But I think, like, if you could find that thing that is healthy and gives you that chance to reflect. And I know for some people, I think my therapist kind of recommended something like that to me before. She was like, maybe not for you, but that, just like checking in and having that moment of reflectiveness, which can feel with something like that, at least for me, can feel kind of like you're wasting time, but you're not. Because it is important to take those moments for yourself and to check in and to make sure you're doing okay, or if there's something you need to work on, or so you don't burn out. There's a lot of reasons why it's important. Things like Mental Health Monday.
Yes. And thank you for letting me do that.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for being so open and for sharing, Samantha.
Also, pre-order the book.
Also, pre-order the book. You can do so at stuffyoushouldreadbooks.com, everyone.
There you go.
Yes. Wow. You can also email us at stuffmediamomstuff@iheartmedia.com. You can find us on Twitter at momstuffpodcast or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff I Never Told You, where you can also find the link to buy the book. We're also on YouTube. Thanks as always to our super producer, Christina, our executive producer, Maya, and our contributor, Joey.
Thank you, work fam.
Yes, thank you. And thanks to you for listening. Stuff I Never Told You is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.